Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Darling, and shall we see what's going on our lovely island on Fawnhollow today, where we'll be relaxing as per usual. It's a weekend, everyone get down for a weekend. You know what happened to me today? I went out shopping to buy some food, and I came home and was putting like food back in the fridge, and I was like, I saw I bought one more item that I put back. I didn't buy all that many because I have food already. I was just getting some vegetables because I didn't have them. Started basically running out of them. So I put the broccoli back in, put the carrot back in. What else did I buy? I put the cucumber in, and I was like, didn't I buy 4 things? And I was like, oh well, haven't I thought about it? And then I went to go eat lunch. Like an hour or two after. Wait, hold on. Good morning, everyone. Or good afternoon, everyone. Right now it's on Fawnhollow. It's 2:52 p.m. on Saturday, June 10th, 2023. And then, as I went to go eat lunch, I was like, I'm going to eat some salad. And when I opened my fridge, what do you know? I forgot the salad. I just left it there after, purchasing all my food. I just left it on the side next to the self-checkout and then just left without my poor salad just sitting there. It truly is the most tragic thing because it was the first thing I scanned on the self-checkout. I mean, I was like, oh, I shouldn't put the salad at the bottom of my bag. It's going to get the bag's going to pop or something or get crushed or I don't know. So I was like, I'll put it on the top of my bag afterwards. And then I just never put it back in my bag again. So really, I mean, I don't have anyone to blame but myself. But, I went saladless this lunchtime. Instead, I just had some cucumbers and tomatoes. But so be it. I mean, there's probably been other times I've forgotten things at, the checkout. But, excuse me, can you checkout or cashier, you purchase something when you left it accidentally. Can I think of a story off the top of my head? No, I can't. But I'm almost certain it's happened before. I mean, there was one time, I think in Japan, where I purchased, you can get travel card, a Oyster card sort of thing, travel passes, I guess. And I bought one which had an airplane ticket. It was like a bundle. You buy the card and you buy the airplane ticket to go from the airport to one of the Tokyo cities, I assume. I bought it and then immediately lost my ticket after going through the gate. So I guess it's not really the same thing. I guess it probably just flew out of my hand or something. Anyway, that was pretty stressful. And then I don't know what ended up happening, but I ended up explaining to the train conductor that I lost my ticket, but so I used the card to repurchase to re-let myself back in. I can't remember. I did something like that where basically I just paid the ticket cost twice, and he was like, all right, fine. He probably was this person's a tourist because back then I only had done one less than a year, probably about a year of Japanese lessons, so it wasn't great. I was fumbling my way through. I mean, I don't even know how I'd explain it properly now, to be honest. What other times have I bought things and just left them on the counter? I mean, normally that doesn't happen because normally I'm quite diligent with this sort of thing, where I'm just check over things over and over again. Excuse me, but I don't know. I guess today it probably was because it's so extremely hot. Perhaps it's a bit of a scapegoat to blame the heat, but today is surprisingly hot for the UK, and I made a mistake of going out around lunchtime, a bit before. I went around 11 or so it wasn't really the peak heat, but I think it was 28 degrees or something today, which is insane. Let me look up the weather forecast for next to me. Right now it's 29 degrees Celsius, which in Fahrenheit is 82ish. I don't know if that's right. I'm just guessing at 29C equals Fahrenheit 84 Fahrenheit, which you might be that's not insanely hot. It's pretty hot for the UK. And apparently it's going to get up to 31 degrees at 3 or 4, which is insane. Why is it so hot this weekend? I'd much rather it not be hot, but I suppose we are in June. It kind of is the summer months, isn't it? Apparently there's thunderstorms tomorrow. Oh my word. 10 days. What's going on in 10 days? It's going to be hot Tuesday. It's going to be hot Thursday. Actually, it's just somewhat hot for the rest of the week, which kind of sucks. But oh well. That just do be how life is. So yeah, I forgot my salad at the checkout counter. That was, £1.10 or whatever that salad cost down the drain. And also, I was significantly less veggied up during this lunchtime. But, oh well, so be it. I'll just next time I go to the shops, I'll actually buy it. And make sure to put it in my bag this time. Yeah, have there been any other times I bought something and just left it? There was this time in China, we went to a market. Because I remember when my grandparents used to live, my grandparents on my father's side. There was like this big market. You can go like buy a load of like people like, it was like a flea market, I suppose. And if you don't know, in flea markets, a very big thing in Chinese flea markets, especially, is haggling. Like even probably even more so than I'd imagine than some other countries' flea markets. I don't know necessarily, but you basically had to play a sort of game with it where you're like, oh, how much is this? And they'll say some number. You'd be like, well, that's not, whoa, that's too high. How about this? And they'll be like, oh, no, I can't go that low. And then you go back and forth like ages. You threaten to leave, and then they'll be like, oh, no, come back. Well, we'll make it cheaper. How about this? And then you just go back and forth until, you can finally haggle the price down, which, in my opinion, I'm not about that. I'm not about the theatrics and performance, I suppose, when it comes to buying thing. I want to buy something, just give me the actual price. It's worth, and I'll buy it. I know they're trying to make money. That's like, they're trying to swindle it out of me, I suppose, by charging more. If I'm just too reluctant to not haggle and that sort of thing. But, jokes on them, because I'll just not buy it. I haven't been to a flea market, I suppose, in like China or wherever before. Well, I haven't been to China for ages, but I'd imagine if it was basically how I want to buy something like this, and they were like, oh, okay, no, it costs that much, and I'm just like, that's too expensive, and I'll just leave. I'm not even going to try and bargain. Screw that, to be perfectly honest. It's just not my scene. I don't know. I guess it's just, that's probably the efficiency part of my brain being like, it's not worth it. Go buy it from somewhere else. I'd much rather buy it from literally anywhere else. Even if I could haggle it down for cheaper in a flea market, I'd much rather pay the premium to not have to deal with the hassle. And maybe that makes me lazy, and maybe it does. I'm not going to fight off that labelling, because it's probably true in that regard. But it's just like a handful, isn't it? Flea market haggling and that sort of thing. Like, there used to be a car boot sale, which was like an area for car boot sales near where I grew up when I was younger. And I remember we always used to go there to buy random stuff. I don't know, my parents liked to go there to buy things, and then I as a child was like, ooh, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, being like, ooh, what other sort of cool things can we buy from here? Sorry, sip of water. And to be fair, we bought a lot of cool things. I'm not gonna lie. What's this? I got a Discord message? Oh, okay. I'll have to respond to that in a bit. Yeah, we bought probably quite a lot of cool things. I bought a lot of toys. I remember some things I bought is back in the day, in McDonald's in the UK, they started giving out Hamtaro toys in, in the Happy Meals in McDonald's. And I wanted so badly to collect the entire set, but for some reason I could never find anyone who got a boss plushie and was willing to trade it. So I ended up with like 2 Hamtaros, 3 Bijous and 2 Cappies or something, but no bosses, like ever. And it was really sad for me at the time, because I loved Hamtaro. Hamtaro was my favourite thing of all time back then, but so be it. I remember I bought some other like extra Hamtaro like McDonald's toys from that car boot sale. I remember there was just like I must have been like 6 or younger or something, and there was like a teenage girl who I would guess she was like in her 12s to 14s or something, selling them. I don't know why I remember. Anyway, she was sitting there and I picked up the bijou or whatever and was like, how much for this? I don't remember what she said, and I just bought it. That's all I remember. I also remember, which, at the time when I was a child, this was like a very scary moment, despite the fact looking back on it, it's not scary in the slightest, but I remember at a car boot sale, I was just browsing through like a load of wares randomly. I don't know. I guess I was by myself. I'm just like wandering about the place. It was a different time back in the early 2000s. And then like I stopped by this old lady's like, car boot store, I suppose. And she was selling a load of books. And then I remember picking up the books, being one of them, and being like kind of interested in it. I just like started reading it. Eventually just sort of sitting down and like reading it for like the next 20 minutes or something. And I remember at one point, I like finished reading it, or I got to a point where I felt like there's a presence over me, and I looked up and it was just like the old grandma like looking down at me. And that in that moment I was terrified. I was like, oh no, she's gonna like arrest me or something because I just like read this book without paying for it or something. That's like stealing. So I just like ran away. Obviously at the time, from her perspective, she was probably like, oh, this sweet little child is here reading this book, which, is on display. She was probably like, oh, I'll sell it to them for like a really cheap price, or maybe just even give it to them or something. Anyway, I remember that. I can't remember how, but we ended up buying the books. I assume I must have gone to my parents being like, can we buy this book? Maybe out of like guilt or shame or something. Or maybe I just wanted a book, I don't know. And we ended up buying them, and then I read them. I cannot tell you what the book was called. The only thing I remember, it was about a brother and sister. I think they had black hair. That's all I remember. And one of the stories was about them going to the pool. And the thing that blew my mind about it was like they were like, before they got into the pool, they went through this like passage where there was like this mini pool, the mini pool being like foot high or something, and it was about like a meter, and they were like, what is this? Is this a pool? And their mum was like, no, this is where you go to like wash your feet before you go into a pool. So you like walk through and it like washes your feet. I guess it's a footbath. I don't really know. It was very strange. Anyway, I think the story of that book was about the brother learning to swim or something. Like he learnt to doggy paddle is all I remember. And I cannot tell you what on earth this book series was called. UK Children's Book Series, Swimming Pool Brother and Sister. If this actually comes up, I'm going to lose my mind. Like, I can sort of picture it, but also not. Like, I can imagine the images were kind of like watercolour-esque. You know, kind of like Charlie and Nola, but I mean, it didn't look like Charlie and Nola. They looked like... If anything, they kind of look like Playmobil characters from what I recall. What happened? Oh, I just bought a surfboard. I didn't mean to do that. I meant to sell this stuff too. Oh well. I don't know if it's a book series I can find. There's been so many things I want to find, like, recently. Like, I talked about the one yesterday about the 5 senses. Children's, like, educational show. Oh my god, the Joy-Con drift. Which I could not find after searching for a little bit more. But there's another one I wanted to find recently. I can't remember what it was, though. Oh my word, please Joy-Con drift. Maybe we have a take photo mission, I don't know, but we'll do that. Apparently we did. There must have been other book series I wanted to remember. Excuse me. Nook Mouse, there we go. Sorry, other things in my childhood I wanted to remember, but, you know, have just vanished because I can never find them again. Anyway, that's not the point. We're here to talk about, I guess, haggling. I don't remember we did much haggling in the car boot sale, to be perfectly honest. Maybe. Again, I was pretty young, so I don't really remember much of it. Oh, I never actually finished off a story. I was saying originally about the Chinese flea market, but yeah, I was there, and then like there was like this spiky like inflatable ball thing, which I was kind of interested in, and then I remember my grandma haggling for it like for a while, just like. A while enough that I was just like sort of like sitting there. I was quite young, again, probably like 6, 7ish, I'd guess, playing with a ball and being like, I don't really know what to do. And then they started just like walking away from the store, so I went to follow them and I put the ball back because I was like, oh, they clearly didn't buy the ball or something. And then they were just like, what? You're putting it back? I was like, you spent that long haggling for it? And I was like, oh, I didn't actually know that's what you were doing. You know, no one decided to tell me that they actually bought the ball or anything. As if I was that like thwarted that childlike me had any awareness of necessarily what was going on in a language which I was not particularly great in back then. Even now I'm not all that good in. Talking about conversations about the concept of haggling, which I didn't really understand properly. And they were surprised I was putting it back. I remember them being quite outraged, but not to like a crazy degree or anything, but to a sense where I was just like, you didn't think I didn't know what was going on? No, you didn't think I knew what... Wait, you thought I knew what was going on? Gonna be honest, had no clue, Grandma. Anyway, that was a story. Not much of a story there, but I guess that's a story of how I almost left something at the checkout. But yeah, what other flea market stories do I have? Or haggling ones? I remember I bought a lot of Miffys from that area, like Miffys of all sorts of different colours. Like I had a whole family. I had like a Miffy backpack, which actually that Miffy backpack I bought from a car boot sale, a different car boot sale from a local one from where I used to grow up. It was at a different area, and I remember eyeing it up, being like, please, can we get it or something? And then I saw, I remember we were like, oh, maybe we'll come back for it or something. And I remember, I think like another, like later leaving on and like looking at it later, and like another family was like looking at it. I was like, no, I didn't yell out no, but in my head I was like, no, the Miffy backpack, I can't get it. But when it turns out we didn't buy it, eventually we came back and we did buy it. So, you know, had a nice little cute little Miffy backpack for a while. I had a load of other Miffys, like I had a whole family. I think I must have had like 12 of them or something. I have legitimately no idea where we are now. I assume they're like locked up in like the attic somewhere, but so be it. That's just, well, locked up is the wrong sort of word, but probably somewhere in there. And I had a lot of plushies. But anyway, yeah, haggling, just like an absolute nonsense. Not nonsense, but annoying. I remember another one actually in the same sort of market near where my grandparents grew up. This was around the time the DSi was released, so I guess I must have been like 12, 13. And I remember I had a DS Lite, a white DS Lite, and then, you know, the DSi was announced, and I was like, I was, you know, even more into, I suppose, video games and Nintendo and stuff than I am now. Well, in a different sense, I suppose. And I was like, I want to get a DSi. It's got a camera. That's like the coolest thing ever. But I remember that in its initial release in Japan or whatever, they like released it with a sky blue version or something, and I was like, that's so cool. I want that one. I don't want the black one or the white one. I want the blue one. So I just waited for like ages for the UK one to come out, and then we not ages, like a month or two, whatever. But in UK it only released the black and white, and I was like, no. And then we went to China, and I was like, hey, maybe we can buy a blue DSi there. But it turns out it was like insanely expensive in China, and it's good. Also, a good thing I didn't buy it from China, because a lot of Nintendo consoles, as I later learned, are region locked with that sort of thing. So I probably wouldn't have been able to play over any of the UK games on it. But yeah, tried to buy a blue DSi. I remember it cost £150 in China, which was like, I think even more expensive than it was in the UK at the time, or not much more cheaper. And there was just like no guarantee, there was no warranty or anything, because we're buying it randomly from like in flea markets in China. And I remember just this one memory, because that was like the one thing I wanted the most or whatever, of my father like going up to one of the stores, like electronic stores or whatever, and asking like, hey, do you have a new Nintendo thing? How much does it cost? And then like the shop attendant, she just went like 150, and my dad just went and just like threw his hand up and like walked out. Not walked out, but like walked away. It sounds more aggressive than it was. It wasn't like he was like being incredibly rude or anything, but it was just sort of like just like come on, because we spent so long, I think, trying to find a DSi, the blue DSi, for a reasonable price, and we didn't. Anyway, so you know, that was sad. But I suppose the moral of the story is good things comes to those who wait, and patience is a virtue, because then a few months later the blue DSi was released in the UK, and I picked it up, and it was great, and that was my go-to DS console for ages. I even brought it to school some other days to take a few pictures, which is wild to think about. Yeah, and then it was years later when the 3DS XLs started coming out, which I bought because I was like, I want to play my DS games, but I don't want to play on such a tiny screen anymore. So I bought the Pikachu 3DS XL, because I bought it like years after I think it was released. I still think all of them are probably just in this drawer I got under my desk, my electronics drawer. So yeah, anyway, that 3DS XL was great as well. I played on that for a long time. Like all my games, I played on that. I played a lot of New Leaf on that, unsurprisingly. Yeah. I don't know where I was going with this. I still got like these kids' books open on my other monitor, which none of them are the one I want. So yeah, I don't know. I guess today's about haggling. I thought it was going to be about leaving stuff about at the checkout, but it turns out I don't have many stories about that. So haggling, really quite annoying and not something I want to do, but I understand the need for it, I suppose. Now I understand why it exists, of course. But anyway, I'm going to round this episode off here. So, excuse me. If you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, discussion, shares greatly appreciated. Twitter, Discord down below. Hope we can see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time. Oh, excuse me, Joy-Cons. Bye-bye for now. You really can't help yourself, Joy-Cons, can you?